I was helping Linda load her luggage into the trunk at Toronto Pearson International Airport on that cold November morning when my grandson Tyler tugged at my coat sleeve. It was one of those gray Toronto days where the sky and the pavement blend into the same shade of nothing, and the wind cuts right through you, no matter how many layers you're wearing. Linda was chattering about her spa retreat in Banff, something about hot springs and mountain air, and I was only half listening because I'd heard this speech 3 times already that week. Tyler's grip tightened. He was 8 years old, small for his age, with his mother's dark eyes. My son's eyes. The son I'd lost 4 years ago in a construction accident. Tyler lived with us now, had since he was 4, since his mother couldn't handle raising him alone and had signed custody over to me. Linda had agreed to take him in when we married 5 years ago, though I'd noticed lately she seemed less patient with him. "Grandpa," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of jets overhead. "1 second, buddy." I closed the trunk. Linda was checking her phone, probably her boarding pass for the 100th time. She was meticulous like that, organized to the point of exhaustion. Everything had its place. Everything had its schedule. 5 years of marriage, and I still couldn't leave a coffee mug on the counter without her having something to say about it. "Robert, are you listening?" Linda's voice had that edge to it, the one that meant she was about to repeat herself. "Yes, dear. You have your passport, your phone charger, your—" "Grandpa, please!" Tyler's voice cracked, and something in his tone made me actually look at him. Really look at him. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. "Linda, give me just a minute with Tyler, okay?" I said. She huffed, glanced at her watch. "My flight's in 2 hours, Robert. I need to get through security." I know. Just 1 minute." I crouched down in front of Tyler right there in the departure drop-off lane. Cars honking around us. Security guards eyeing us to move along. "What is it, kiddo? You feeling sick?" He shook his head. His eyes filled with tears. "Grandpa, we can't go back home today. Please." My heart did something strange in my chest. "What do you mean?" "This morning, really early, I woke up because I heard voices downstairs. Grandma Linda was on the phone in your office. I went to get water, and I heard her say—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "She said that today, while you're both away from the house, something was going to happen. That you wouldn't be in the way anymore." The world seemed to tilt. "Tyler, are you sure about what you heard?" "I'm sure, Grandpa." She said, "He'll be at the airport with me. Perfect alibi." And she said something about insurance money and how it would finally be over. "Grandpa, I'm scared. I should have dismissed it. Should have thought he misunderstood, that he'd had a bad dream, that children get confused. But something in his eyes, something in the absolute certainty of his fear, made me believe him, made me remember things I'd been ignoring. Linda increasing both our life insurance policies 6 months ago. Just being responsible, Robert. We're not getting any younger. Linda insisting we put the house, my house that I'd owned for 30 years, into both our names. We're married, Robert. What's yours is mine. What's mine is yours. Linda's sudden interest in my retirement accounts, my investments, my late wife's trust fund that was meant for Tyler when he turned 18. Linda's increasingly cold treatment of Tyler. He's manipulative, Robert. He plays you. Robert. Linda's voice snapped me back. "What's going on? We need to move the car." I stood up slowly, my knees protesting. 62, and I could feel every year of it. "Linda, I think Tyler's coming down with something. I should take him home, make sure he's okay." "He's fine. He's always fine. He just wants attention." "No, I really think—" "Robert, I am not missing this flight. I've been planning this retreat for months. Your grandson can handle a few hours alone. He's 8, not 2. Tyler grabbed my hand. "Grandpa, please don't leave me alone at the house." And that's when I made the decision that saved both our lives. "Okay, buddy, you're coming with me. We'll drop Grandma off, then we'll go. We'll go do something fun, maybe the science center." Linda's face went through several expressions, landing on barely controlled anger. "You're spoiling him. He's my grandson. Get your bags, Linda. You'll miss your flight." I helped her with her luggage, got her to the curb, watched her disappear into the terminal. She didn't kiss me goodbye, didn't hug Tyler. just walked away with her expensive rolling suitcase and her designer coat, and I remember thinking it was strange that I felt relieved to see her go. Tyler and I got back in my Silverado, that old truck I'd driven for 15 years, and Linda had been nagging me to replace. "Grandpa, are we really going to the science center?" "No, son. We're going to watch the house. From a distance. Just to make sure everything's okay." "You believe me?" I looked at him in the rearview mirror. 8 years old, and he'd already lost his father, lived through his mother, giving him up, adjusted to a new home with a grandfather and a step-grandmother who barely tolerated him. If he said something was wrong, I believed him. "I believe you, Tyler." We drove back through morning traffic on the 401, me gripping the steering wheel too tight, Tyler quiet in the back seat. Our house was in North York, a nice detached home I'd bought in 1995 when the neighborhood was still affordable. 4 bedrooms, finished basement, big backyard where I'd taught my son to throw a baseball, where I was now teaching Tyler. The houses on our street were close together, typical Toronto spacing, but there was enough tree coverage that you could find privacy if you knew where to look. I didn't park in front of our house. I parked 2 streets over, on Elmwood Crescent, where we could see our place through the backyards and the thin line of trees that separated the properties. It was 9:47 a.m. when I turned off the engine. "Now what?" Tyler asked. "Now we wait." We didn't have to wait long. At 10:15, a white van pulled up in front of our house. Not a delivery van, not marked with any company logo, just a plain white Econoline, the kind contractors use. 2 men got out. They weren't dressed like contractors. Dark clothes, both wearing ball caps pulled low. They looked around, checking the street, and then walked right up to our front door. "Grandpa," Tyler breathed. "I see them." One of the men pulled something out of his pocket. I expected lock-picking tools, expected them to force their way in. But what he pulled out made my blood run cold. A key. He had a key to my house. Only 3 people had keys to that house. Me, Linda, and Tyler. The spare was hidden in my workshop in the basement, in a locked drawer that only I knew the combination to. The man unlocked the door like he'd done it 100 times before. Both men entered my home, closing the door behind them. "How did they have a key, Grandpa?" I couldn't answer. My mouth had gone dry. The only way they could have a key was if Linda gave it to them. If Linda planned this. If everything Tyler heard was true. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking. Dialed 911. 911. "What's your emergency?" "There are men breaking into my house. 2 of them. They have a key. I don't know who they are." "Sir, what's your address?" I gave it to her. The dispatcher said she was sending officers right away, asked me if I was safe, if the men were still inside. I said yes to both. She told me to stay on the line, stay where I was, don't approach the house. We sat there, Tyler and me, watching through bare November trees, waiting for something to happen. I kept thinking I should feel more scared, more panicked, but mostly I felt numb. After 62 years of life, you think you know what betrayal feels like. You think your first divorce taught you that lesson. But this was different. This was my wife. The woman I'd trusted to help me raise my grandson, planning to. To what? What were these men doing in my house? At 10:32, I saw smoke. Not a lot at first, just a thin gray line coming from my kitchen window, then another from the living room. Then the smoke got thicker, darker, and I could see an orange glow starting to build behind the curtains. "Grandpa, they're burning the house." Tyler's voice was high, panicked. The men came out the front door, moving fast now, got back in the van, and drove off before any neighbors even noticed. The smoke was really going now, pouring out of my house like my furnace had exploded. My house. 30 years of memories. My son's bedroom, exactly as he'd left it. My late wife's quilts, her recipe books, the rocking chair where I'd held Tyler as a baby when his mother couldn't. All of it burning. I heard sirens. Police first, then fire trucks. Neighbors started coming out of their houses, standing on their lawns, phones out, filming. Because that's what people do now. They film everything. "We should go," Tyler said. "We should tell them." "Not yet." "Why not?" Good question. Why not drive up, tell the police everything, show them my ID, explain that my wife had tried to kill me? Because something Linda had taught me over 5 years of marriage, something I'd learned watching her manipulate situations to always come out looking right, was that the person who controls the story controls the outcome. If I showed up now, desperate and panicked, claiming my wife tried to kill me, it would be my word against hers. She'd say I was senile, that Tyler was troubled, that we were both confused. She had an alibi. She was in Banff. How could she possibly be responsible for a terrible accident? No. I needed proof. Real proof. And I needed to figure out exactly what Linda's endgame was before I made a move. My phone rang. Linda. Don't answer it, Tyler said. I have to. She needs to think everything went according to plan. I answered. Hey, honey. Robert. Thank God. I just landed in Calgary, about to board my connection to Banff, and I had the weirdest feeling I should check in. Everything okay? The weirdest feeling. Sure. Everything's fine, dear. Tyler and I are at the Science Center. He's having a great time. Silence. Just a beat too long. The Science Center. That's nice. I'll send you some pictures. You do that. Listen, I have to go. They're boarding. Love you. She hung up before I could respond. Probably didn't want to hear if I said it back. I watched the fire trucks work on my house. Watched the flames get knocked down. Watched smoke billow up into that gray Toronto sky. Watched my life turn to ash. And I thought about what Linda would do next. She'd expect to get a call. From the police, from a neighbor, someone telling her about the terrible fire. She'd fly back immediately, devastated, playing the worried wife. And she'd find out that somehow, impossibly, her husband and step-grandson weren't home, weren't in the house, weren't dead. What would she do then? Grandpa, I'm scared. I put my hand on Tyler's shoulder. Me too, kiddo. But we're going to be smart about this. Smarter than she thinks we are. I started the truck and drove away from the neighborhood, away from the fire trucks, and the police and the neighbors with their phones. I drove east on Shepherd, then north on the DVP. No real destination in mind, just moving because staying still felt dangerous. Where are we going? I'm thinking. My phone buzzed. Text from my neighbor, Phil Kowalski. Bob, your house is on fire. Where are you? Are you and Linda okay? I didn't respond. Not yet. Another buzz, another neighbor, then another. Word was spreading fast. Within an hour, I had 15 missed calls and 23 text messages, all asking the same things. Where was I? Was I safe? What happened? And then a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. Mr. Patterson, this is Fire Captain Mike Chen from Toronto Fire Services. We're at your residence at 54 Birchwood Drive. There's been a significant fire. We haven't located anyone in the residence, but we need to confirm your whereabouts and the whereabouts of any family members. Please call me back as soon as possible at... I deleted the message. Grandpa, shouldn't you call them back? Not yet, Tyler. Not until we have leverage. What's leverage? It means proof. It means we need something that proves Grandma Linda did this on purpose. Otherwise, it's our word against hers, and she's very good at making people believe her. I'd seen her do it. Seen her convince our neighbors that I was getting forgetful in my old age. Seen her tell my doctor I was having memory issues when I absolutely wasn't. Seen her set up a narrative that made her look like the patient, suffering wife and me look like the confused old man. If I accused her now, without proof, that narrative would destroy any credibility I had. I drove to a Tim Hortons on Finch, bought us coffee and Timbits, sat in the truck and tried to think. My phone kept buzzing. Finally, a call from Linda. I answered. Put it on speaker so Tyler could hear. Robert. Oh my God, Robert. I just got a call from Mrs. Chen next door. She said our house is on fire. Where are you? Are you okay? Is Tyler okay? We're fine, Linda. We're fine. We weren't home when it happened. What? Where are you? We went to the Science Center. Remember? Then we grabbed lunch at that Swiss chalet on Eglinton. We just heard about the fire ourselves. Thank God. Thank God you're both safe. She was crying. or pretending to cry. Hard to tell over the phone. I'm getting the next flight back. I'll be home by tonight. Linda, there might not be much of a home to come back to. I don't care about the house, Robert. I care about you and Tyler. Thank God you're both safe. She hung up. And I sat there, staring at my phone, knowing she was probably calling those men right now, demanding to know what went wrong, why we weren't dead. She's coming back, Tyler said. Yeah. What do we do? We go to my safe deposit box at the bank. I need to get some documents. Then we're going to have a conversation with someone your grandma doesn't know I know. Who? Her first husband. The one she told me died in a car accident. Tyler's eyes went wide. He's alive? Very much so. I got a letter from him 3 months ago. He tracked me down through public records, wanted to warn me about Linda, said she'd tried to kill him too, for insurance money, but he couldn't prove it. He escaped by faking his death and starting over. I didn't believe him then. I thought he was just a bitter ex-husband trying to cause trouble. I didn't believe him because I loved Linda, because I'd been lonely after my wife died, and Linda had been charming and attentive, and I'd let myself be fooled. I'd ignored the warning signs because I wanted companionship more than I wanted truth. But Tyler's fear, the fire, the men with keys to my house, they'd burned away whatever denial I'd been clinging to. We drove to my bank on Young Street, went to the safety deposit room. I pulled out the letter from Linda's supposedly dead first husband. His name was Richard Calloway, and he lived in Winnipeg now, had for the past 7 years. He'd left me his phone number. I called him from the bank's parking lot. He answered on the second ring. Hello? Mr. Calloway, this is Robert Patterson. You sent me a letter 3 months ago about Linda. Silence. Then, she tried to kill you too, didn't she? Today. Fire. 2 men she hired. Jesus. Are you alive? Sorry, stupid question. You're calling me. Did she think the fire killed you? She thinks I'm still alive. She doesn't know yet that I know it was her. Listen to me very carefully, Mr. Patterson. Do not go to the police yet. Do not confront her. She is smarter than both of us, and she will have covered her tracks. You need proof that directly ties her to the men who started that fire. Do you have that? No. Then get it. I'll help however I can. I've been documenting everything I learned about Linda for 7 years. Bank statements, phone records, connections to a man named Eddie Torres, who she uses for her dirty work. I'll email everything to you. But you need to stay alive long enough to use it. How do I do that? Make her think her plan worked for now. Make her believe you're confused, traumatized, not thinking clearly. That buys you time. Time to find the proof that will put her away. We talked for 45 minutes. Richard told me his whole story. How Linda had married him when he was 55 and wealthy, widowed, lonely. How she'd isolated him from his daughter, taken control of his finances, increased his life insurance. How he'd overheard her planning his murder, staged his own death in a hiking accident in Banff, the same place she was supposedly going now, and fled to Winnipeg with nothing but the clothes on his back. She has a type, he said. Older widowers with money and kids she can get rid of. You're not her first, Mr. Patterson. And if you don't stop her, you won't be her last. After I hung up with Richard, I sat in the truck with Tyler, watching normal people go in and out of the bank, living their normal lives, and I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Grandpa, I'm hungry. Right. Tyler was 8. He'd been up since early morning, witnessed his grandmother plotting murder, watched our house burn down, and now he was hungry. Because kids' needs don't stop, even when the world is ending. I took him to McDonald's, got him a Happy Meal, watched him eat his chicken nuggets like everything was normal, like we weren't homeless, hunted, waiting for a murderess to come back to Toronto. My phone buzzed. Email from Richard Calloway. Subject line, everything I have on Linda. I opened it. 37 attachments. Bank statements showing Linda moving money to offshore accounts. Phone records showing calls to a number registered to Eddie Torres. Screenshots of life insurance policies she'd taken out on Richard. A private investigator's report documenting her movements. It was a roadmap to Linda's scam. But it wasn't proof of what she'd done to me, to my house, today. For that, I needed something more. I needed to hear her confess. or I needed to catch her with Eddie Torres, or I needed to find those men who'd burned my house and get them to testify against her. Grandpa, what are we doing tonight? Where are we sleeping? Good question. I couldn't go to friends. Linda knew all of them. Couldn't go to family. I didn't have any left except for Tyler. Hotels required ID and credit cards that Linda could trace. But I knew someone who could help. Someone Linda didn't know about. My late wife's sister, Helen. We'd had a falling out years ago over the estate, hadn't spoken in a decade. But Helen was tough, practical, and lived in Scarborough in a basement apartment that nobody except me knew about. I called her. To my surprise, she answered. Robert? Helen, I know we haven't talked in a long time, but I need help. Serious help. 15 minutes later, Tyler and I were driving to Helen's apartment on Kingston Road. She met us at the door, 68 years old and still formidable. Gray hair in a tight bun, suspicious eyes that softened when she saw Tyler. Jesus, Robert, you look terrible. Both of you. Get inside. Her apartment was small but clean. She made tea, listened to my whole story without interrupting once. When I finished, she sat back in her worn armchair and said, I never liked Linda. Too smooth, too perfect, too interested in your money. You could have warned me. Would you have listened? Probably not. I'd been so desperate not to be alone that I'd ignored every red flag, every warning sign, every gut feeling that something was off. What's your plan? Helen asked. I need to make Linda think I'm confused and traumatized. Buy myself time to gather proof. Richard Calloway gave me a lead on this Eddie Torres character. If I can find him, get him to talk, maybe get him to turn on Linda. That's not a plan, Robert. That's wishful thinking. She was right, of course. Tyler, Helen said, why don't you go watch TV in the bedroom? The remote's on the bed. Once Tyler was gone, Helen leaned forward. Robert, listen to me. You're 62 years old. You're not trained for this. You're an engineer, not a detective. If this Eddie Torres is the kind of man who burns houses for money, he's dangerous. You go after him directly, you'll get yourself killed, and then who protects Tyler? So what do? You do what you're good at. You build a case. You use Richard's evidence. You document everything Linda does from here on out. You record your conversations with her. You make her comfortable enough to slip up, and you let the professionals handle the rest. The police won't believe me without proof. Then we get proof. Smart proof. Safe proof. She pulled out her phone. I have a friend, Marlene Chen. She's a private investigator, retired police detective. She owes me a favor. Let me call her. Within 2 hours, Marlene Chen was sitting in Helen's living room, reviewing everything I had. She was maybe 55, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. She looked at Richard's documents, asked me detailed questions about Linda, about the fire, about the men I saw. I'll find Eddie Torres, she said finally, and I'll find the 2 men who burned your house. But Mr. Patterson, you need to do something for me. Anything. You need to act normal. When Linda comes back, you need to be the traumatized, confused old man she expects. You need to let her think she still has control. Can you do that? Could I? Could I look at the woman who'd tried to kill me and my grandson, who'd burned down my house, who'd planned to collect insurance money and live happily ever after? Could I look at her and pretend everything was fine? For Tyler, I could do anything. Yes. Linda's flight landed at 11:47 p.m. She texted me. Where are you? Where's Tyler? The house is completely destroyed. I called her, put exhaustion in my voice. Linda, we're at a hotel near the airport. The Sheraton. We're both so tired, so shaken up. Everything's gone. I know, honey. I'm getting an Uber straight there. Don't worry, we'll figure this all out. She arrived at 1:15 a.m. I met her in the hotel lobby. She hugged me, and I forced myself not to pull away, not to flinch at her touch. She smelled like the airport, like recycled air and stress. Where's Tyler? Asleep upstairs, room 412. Thank God you're both safe. I was so worried on the flight. I couldn't stop thinking about what could have happened. She was crying, real tears or fake. I couldn't tell anymore. The fire marshal called me. They're saying it looks like an electrical fire, something with the furnace. But they're still investigating. Electrical fire. Of course. That's what she'd told those men to make it look like. Linda, I can't stop shaking. Every time I close my eyes, I see flames. What if we'd been home? What if Tyler and I... But you weren't. You're here. You're safe. She grabbed my hands. Robert, we're going to get through this. Insurance will cover everything. We'll rebuild. Or maybe, and here her voice got softer, maybe this is a sign that we should start fresh somewhere else. Somewhere warm. Have you ever thought about retiring to BC? Victoria, maybe? Start fresh. Away from Toronto. Away from neighbors who knew me. Away from anyone who might question Linda's story. I don't know, Linda. I'm so tired. Can we talk about this tomorrow? Of course. Let's go upstairs. Let's just be together. We went up to the hotel room. Tyler was asleep in one of the queen beds. Linda and I took the other. She fell asleep quickly, or pretended to. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathing, wondering how many times she'd laid beside Richard Calloway, planning his death. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed. She got up, went to the bathroom. I heard her whisper talking. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was angry. She came back, got back into bed, turned away from me. Over the next 3 days, we lived in that hotel room. Linda was attentive, caring, constantly checking on me and Tyler. She brought us food, dealt with the insurance adjuster, handled calls from neighbors. She was perfect. Too perfect. And all the while, Marlene Chen was working. She called me twice a day with updates, always when Linda was out dealing with fire marshal reports or insurance claims. I found Eddie Torres, she said, on day 3. He's a piece of work. 3 arrests, 2 convictions, did time for arson for hire. And I found something interesting. Bank records show Linda paid him $15,000 2 weeks ago. Can we get him to testify? Working on it. But there's more. I tracked down the 2 men who actually started the fire. One of them, Marcus Webb, has a record. The other's clean. Probably first time doing something like this. His name's Jason Petrosky, and I think he's the weak link. What do you mean? I mean he's scared. Young, early 20s, probably got into this for easy money and didn't realize what he was doing. I've been watching him. He keeps going to street, Michael's Cathedral, sitting in the back pew, praying. Guilt eats at people, Mr. Patterson, especially the ones not used to crime. Can you approach him? Not me. But maybe you can. That afternoon I told Linda I needed to go for a walk, clear my head. She offered to come with me, but I said I needed to be alone, process everything. She understood, or pretended to. I met Marlene 3 blocks from the hotel. She showed me a photo of Jason Petrosky. Young, blonde, looks like he should be playing hockey somewhere, not burning houses. He'll be at Street Michael's at 4 p.m., she said. He goes every day at the same time. You sit next to him. You tell him you know what he did. You tell him you're giving him one chance to make it right before you go to the police. And you record everything. She gave me a small recording device, showed me how to use it. At 3:55 p.m., I walked into Street Michael's Cathedral. I'd been there for my wedding with my first wife 40 years ago, for my son's baptism, for his funeral. The smell of incense and candles was the same, that particular Catholic church smell that brings back memories whether you want them or not. Jason Petrosky was in the back pew, like Marlene said. Head down, hands clasped. I sat next to him. Jason, I said quietly. He jumped, looked at me, went pale. I don't know you. My name is Robert Patterson. You burned down my house 3 days ago. You and another man, Eddie Torres, paid you to do it. He started to stand. I grabbed his wrist. Sit down. If you run, I call the police right now. If you stay and talk to me, maybe we can figure this out. He sat back down, shaking. I didn't know anyone was supposed to be in there, man, I swear. Eddie said it was just for insurance fraud, that the owner wanted it done, that nobody would get hurt. My 8-year-old grandson was supposed to be in that house, Jason. Me too. We were supposed to burn alive so my wife could collect $2 million in life insurance. He put his head in his hands. Oh my God. Oh my God. Eddie said it was just property. He said Eddie lied. My wife, Linda Patterson, paid him to kill me and my grandson. You were part of a murder-for-hire plot. That's 25 years minimum in prison. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Then, help me prove it. Testify against Eddie and Linda. Tell the police everything. You do that, and I'll tell the Crown Attorney you cooperated, that you didn't know about the murder plot. You might get a reduced sentence. You don't help me. And you go down with them for attempted murder. He was crying now. I can't. Eddie. He knows people. He'll kill me. Eddie's going to prison, Jason. So is Linda. So is the other guy who helped you. The only question is whether you go down with them or whether you help put them away. Make your choice. I stood up, started walking toward the door. Wait, he called out. Wait, I'll tell you everything. But I want immunity. Full immunity. That's not up to me. That's up to the Crown. But I'll put in a good word. Start talking. He did. For 43 minutes, Jason Petrosky told me everything. How Eddie Torres had approached him at a bar in Etobicoke, offered him $5,000 for a simple job. How they'd met with Linda at a Tim Hortons in Mississauga 2 weeks before the fire. How she'd given them keys, the security code, told them exactly when to do it, stressed that it had to look like an electrical fire. She kept saying her husband was old, confused, that he probably wouldn't even wake up in time. She said it would be quick, painless. She made it sound like mercy. I recorded all of it, every word. When he finished, I said, tomorrow, 10 a.m., 40 College Street. That's police headquarters. Ask for Detective Sarah Mitchell. Tell her everything you told me. If you don't show up, this recording goes to police anyway, and you lose any chance at a deal. Understand? I'll be there. I left him there in the church, crying in the pew, and I walked out into the cold November air, feeling something close to hope for the first time in days. That evening, Linda made dinner reservations at a nice restaurant on King Street. We need something normal, she said. Something to take our minds off everything. We got dressed up. Linda wore a navy dress I'd never seen before. Probably bought it while I was walking. She looked beautiful, elegant, perfectly put together. Looking at her, you'd never imagine she'd ordered 2 men to burn her husband alive. At dinner, she held my hand across the table. Robert, I've been thinking, the insurance payout will be substantial. More than enough to buy a beautiful condo in Victoria. Something with a view of the water. Tyler would love it there. He could start fresh, new school, new friends, and we could have the life we always talked about. Travel, relaxation, no more harsh winters. She was planning our future with my insurance money. The audacity of it was almost impressive. That sounds nice, Linda. I'll start looking at properties online. I think we should move fast. Start over before the memories of the fire get too deeply embedded. Fresh starts are important, don't you think? I do. She smiled, squeezed my hand. I'm so glad we have each other, Robert. I don't know what I'd do without you. I smiled back, played my role. And all the while, I thought about the recording in my pocket, about Jason Petrosky, about tomorrow at 10 a.m. That night, back at the hotel, I lay awake again listening to Linda sleep. My phone buzzed silently. Text from Marlene Chen. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., meet me outside police headquarters. Detective Mitchell is expecting us. Jason confirmed he's coming. It's almost over. Almost over. Almost. At 8:47 a.m., I told Linda I was taking Tyler to breakfast. Give her some time to herself to deal with more insurance calls. She was happy to have the space. Tyler and I walked out of the hotel, and instead of going to breakfast, we took an Uber to police headquarters. Marlene Chen was waiting outside with a woman in her late 40s, professional, sharp-eyed. Mr. Patterson, this is Detective Sarah Mitchell. She's with the Fraud and Arson Division. We shook hands. Mr. Patterson, I've reviewed the evidence Miss Chen provided. The bank records, the phone records, Richard Calloway's testimony, and the recording you made with Jason Petrosky. Jason came in 45 minutes ago and gave a full statement. He's cooperating in exchange for a reduced charge. So you believe me? I believe you have a case. A strong one. But we need to do this right. We're going to bring in Eddie Torres and the other man who helped start the fire. We're going to verify Jason's statement, match it against physical evidence from your house. And then we're going to arrest your wife. When? Today. This afternoon. But Mr. Patterson, I need you to go back to that hotel and act like nothing's changed. We need Linda to feel safe, comfortable. If she suspects anything, she'll run. An extradition from another country is complicated. Can you do that? Could I? Could I sit across from Linda, eat lunch, make small talk, pretend everything was fine while knowing that in a few hours police would come to arrest her for attempted murder? I looked at Tyler. He'd been so brave through all of this, so strong. And I thought about how Linda had dismissed him, belittled him, tried to kill him to get her hands on his inheritance. Yes, I said, I can do that. Tyler and I went back to the hotel. We found Linda in the hotel restaurant, having breakfast, laptop open, looking at condos in Victoria like she'd promised. Good morning, she was cheerful. Come look at this place I found. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, water view, only $850,000. With the insurance money, we could buy it outright. No mortgage. I looked at the screen. It was a beautiful condo. I wondered how many times she'd done this. Planned a beautiful future with a man she intended to kill. It's nice, Linda. I already emailed the realtor. We could fly out next week. Take a look. Tyler, honey, would you like living by the ocean? Tyler, who knew what was about to happen, who'd been prepped by Detective Mitchell on what to say, looked up at Linda and said, I guess so. We'll get you enrolled in a good school. Make new friends. It'll be an adventure. At 2:47 p.m., there was a knock on our hotel room door. Linda answered. 2 police officers stood there, Detective Mitchell between them. Linda Patterson? Yes? I'm Detective Sarah Mitchell with Toronto Police. I have a warrant for your arrest on charges of attempted murder, arson, and fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Linda's face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Shock, confusion, fear, and then, finally, rage. She looked at me. You, she hissed. You did this. No, I said. You did this. You tried to kill your husband. Again, they handcuffed her. She was screaming now, saying I was confused, that I was senile, that this was all a misunderstanding. She was still screaming as they led her out of the hotel room, past curious guests in the hallway, down to the parking lot where a police cruiser waited. Tyler and I stood at the window, watching them drive away. Is it over, Grandpa? For now, kiddo. The trial took 8 months. Linda pleaded not guilty, tried to claim everything was a misunderstanding, that she'd never met Eddie Torres, that Richard Calloway was lying, that I was a confused old man with a vendetta. But Jason Petrosky testified. The other man, Marcus Webb, cut a deal and testified. Eddie Torres, facing 20 years, turned on Linda completely, told prosecutors everything. The bank records matched. The phone records matched. Richard Calloway's testimony about her previous attempt added credibility. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Linda got 22 years. At 55, she'd be 77 when released. If she made it that long, I sat in the courtroom watching her be led away, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief, just emptiness. 5 years of my life had been a lie. I'd trusted her, loved her, shared my home and my grandson with her, and all of it had been part of her con. But Tyler was safe. That's what mattered. With the insurance money from the fire, I bought a house in the beaches, smaller than the old one, but right near the water. Tyler got his own room, decorated it with posters of astronauts and the Raptors. He started at a new school, made friends, joined the junior hockey league. Helen became a regular presence in our lives, coming over for dinner every Sunday. Marlene Chen became a friend, stopping by occasionally to check on us. Richard Calloway flew out from Winnipeg 6 months after the trial. We met for coffee, 2 men who'd almost been killed by the same woman, bonding over our survival. She told me I was the love of her life, he said. Made me believe it too, and all along, I was just a bank account with a heartbeat. How do you move past it? I asked. You don't move past it. You move forward with it. You learn to trust again, carefully. You appreciate the people who are genuine. You stop ignoring red flags. He paused. And you let yourself be grateful. We're alive, Robert. We're still here. A lot of men in our position aren't. He was right. I was alive. Tyler was alive. We'd survived. Today marks 2 years since that morning at the airport. 2 years since Tyler squeezed my hand and whispered his warning. He's 10 now. Taller, louder, happy. He still has nightmares sometimes, still goes to therapy once a month. But he's healing. As for me, I'm 64. Retired for real now. No plans to remarry. Perfectly content with my grandson and my quiet life by the lake. I volunteer at a seniors center, teaching other older adults how to recognize financial scams, how to spot the warning signs of elder abuse. Because Linda wasn't unique. There are others like her. Predators who target lonely widowers, isolated seniors, anyone vulnerable. And if I can help even one person avoid what I went through, then maybe it all meant something. This morning, Tyler and I walked down to the beach. It was cold, typical November morning, the same kind of gray sky as that day 2 years ago. But it felt different now, safer. Grandpa, Tyler said, do you still think about her? Sometimes. Less now than before. I think about her too. Mostly I think about how she almost fooled us, how we almost didn't believe what was happening. But we did believe it. You were brave enough to tell me, and I was smart enough to listen. That's what saved us. He picked up a rock, threw it into Lake Ontario. Next time someone tries to tell me something important, I'll listen right away. I won't wait. That's good, kiddo. That's real good. We stood there on the beach, the wind cutting through us, and I thought about how strange life is. How you can go from perfect contentment to absolute terror in the space of a whispered warning. How you can lose everything and still have what matters most. Tyler is what matters most. And he's safe. We're safe. And that's enough. That's more than enough.